Trustees meeting. Today is Tuesday, January 21st, and the time is 5 o'clock. And I'd like to call the meeting to order. Would you do the roll, Dave?
Please, Mr. Gentleman. Here. Mr. Mahoney.
Here.
Mr. Crandall.
Here.
Simcoe. Here.
Would we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Except for those who are football.
I'll move approval of the minutes of January 7th.
Second.
Mr. Gentleman.
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney.
Yes.
Mr. Crandall.
Yes. Any additions or deletions? Oliver? Okay, thank you. Fire Department, Chief RAMM. Oh, Chris is subbing.
Well, Chief RAMM bailed out to Florida,
Oh,
and then he's in Key West.
oh,
The
wow.
high was 53 today.
Oh,
I really felt like texting him and asking if I should overnight his work. So, yeah, I don't know. Guess the first thing we got is our monthly report. Anniversaries for several employees there. Down at the bottom, we do have, there's more than 3. There's actually, I believe, 6 of our people that actually play on the Toledo Firefighters hockey team.
oh, wow.
So they did,
RAM isn't one of them.
That's covered under workman's comp, I'm sure of that.
Next page would be our current incidents. So 2018 for the month was 522. We're down slightly to 491 in 2019. Did have a couple of fires during the month of December, which escalated our losses up a little bit over 2018. Mutual aid is about the same, given and received. Overlapping percentage down just a little bit. Transports down at the bottom. You can see Medic 63 is up, which was the new unit that's out here. And Medic 64 is up slightly as well. They keep creeping up a little bit every month. Community risk reduction. We did do a tour and walk through the whole facility for the new Certify Enterprises, which is a fabulous facility. Numerous tornado drills, fire drills throughout the area with all the schools. Some new project plan reviews. Some home inspections. And in the bottom picture is the warehouse fire that was 6 o'clock in the morning, I think-ish, at Silica and Sylvania Avenue. No Lucas County EMS continuing education for the month of December. 170 hours of fire training were conducted. And we've included this nursing assisted living and urgent care EMS incidents. So those are outlined by the facility name, the type, the address of the location, the number of beds. You'll see that in 2018 and 2019, those numbers there. We're gonna add that, if that's okay with you, Mr. Gentleman. It's a lot easier to do it monthly rather than try to do it quarterly.
Yeah.
That way it's in the same format.
And I know I could simple do it, but could you add the number, so we got a total of beds? I mean, I guess, simple Excel
Yeah.
summation.
It looks like we're down in 19, huh?
Quite a bit. Well, that's just for the month of December.
And Chief Freilich, I don't know if it was.
Oh, that's right, yeah, that's
He did
right,
do the entire year analysis, and when we came out with that document that we sent to all the nursing care facilities in October, you can see a deep dive on our responses there for the non-emergent type.
Chris, could you do that year-to-date rather than monthly? It'd get us, kind of get rid of the peaks. I don't know how you guys feel, but I'd rather see year-to-date 18 and 19.
Sure.
That way you get rid of the peaks and valleys.
Yep.
It's a better number. That's a nice report.
Anything else on that you'd like to see modified?
Looks good.
Last page is the overtime for the month of December. And I believe Mr. Genowine requested some additional detail on that. So under we did have one makeup CE for somebody that was off duty for the November session, so that's where that 4 hours come from actually in December. FMLA, I think this is how you want it broke down. If it's not, Mr. Genowine, let me know, we can fix that.
You know, I think when I spoke to Chief Ram, my concern was as we move forward with the change of management style there, like, we've stepped out on the limb here saying, hey, let's curb the overtime. So I'd like to see moving forward on a monthly basis that that's working and that overtime isn't creeping up with the new change in style and the additional staffing. And so it is nice to see this, and I did talk to Chief about breaking it out like that, but my main thing moving forward is comparing it from 18, or from 19 to 20, to make sure that we're seeing the results that everyone here expects.
Any questions over that? Next item is start of several resolutions over the next couple of meetings to fulfill our obligations through the labor agreement and moving forward with the reorganization of the command staff at the fire department.
I'll move resolution 20-014 to certify the fire department's promotional list for the rank of captain.
Second.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
The next resolution is 2015, and I move approval of that resolution to certify the fire department's promotion list for the rank of lieutenant.
Second.
Well, which one are we on?
2015.
2015, okay. Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Crandall?
Yes. And finally, the last resolution is 2016, and it's a resolution to authorize promotion of 3 part-time firefighter paramedics to full-time firefighter paramedics, excuse me. And I move approval.
Second.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for bringing the new rig, too.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at it. Police Department?
Mr. Crandall, I noticed we moved the monthly reports are back now under the departments instead of, I think before you had them under notes or something.
No.
Was this a change in
If
the
they have
format?
if they have a resolution,
Okay.
we take them first, and if, like, road department doesn't have a resol, and then zoning, if we have a hearing, we're doing that at 6.
Okay.
We haven't changed, but it kind of changes every meeting.
I just
But we're
wasn't,
trying to get the resolutions done first.
sounds good.
Okay. All right, monthly report here, we'll start with that for our resolution. The major categories, burglary, theft of motor vehicles, robberies, aggravated assault, every single one of them was down from December of 2018, so that was good. Community affairs, so on that side, we did in the month of December, we had Shop with the Hero at Walmart and Meyer, both those were very successful. We also did a coffee with a cop at Tim Hortons during the month, so that was, we had actually pretty good turnout for that, so we got the word out on that, so that was nice to see some community people stopping by. So we're trying to do a little more of that kind of stuff, and we're gonna shoot for more coffee with the cops throughout the year at some different places, and try to expand that a little bit. That's one of our goals going into next year. We did, had a tree decoration thing with Children's Wonderland. You can sponsor your company and stuff, so we sponsored one there, and I think, we got our volunteers involved, help do some decorations and things for the trees, so we kind of enjoyed that, and I think instead of tinsel, we used crime scene tape for our trees. Having some fun with that, and we made some decorations, so. That's it for the monthly report. If you have any questions on that, if not, I can do the resolution.
Any questions? Let's move on to the resolution then.
All right, resolution 20-019. This is need to replace one dispatcher due to a vacancy within the department. It will not be an increase in staffing, it's just to replace. Unfortunately, Scott passed away. He had to retire and then unfortunately passed away from his illness. So it will just be to authorize the police department to replace one dispatcher by hiring one from our current eligibility list. And we do have current eligibility list, so.
I'll move resolution 2019 to authorize hiring of a dispatcher, a replacement dispatcher.
Second?
Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Chief. Oliver, administrative matters?
Oliver.
Good evening, trustees. Thank you. First item under the administrative category is introduction of our general manager, Kimberly Dunn. This time, please take the word.
Hi, Kim.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Pleasure to be here. I'd like to thank all of you for inviting me to have the opportunity to speak with you today. So I just want to tell you a little bit about me, what drew me to the region, and really what my isolated vision of Target is. For probably about 5 or 6 minutes. So I've devoted my entire life and career to building exceptional transit systems that change people's lives and provide social, economic, and environmental impacts and benefits to communities. In addition to having more than 30 years of experience in the public transportation industry, I serve on the active board of directors and closely around with leaders from small, medium, and large transit systems from across the country that have deployed current-day technology and implemented best practices. These relationships will be invaluable as we reinvent and reimagine Target together. I selected the Metro Toledo region as my next career choice because I saw great potential here to improve the public transit system based on the foundational work
completed, thank you, by many supporters of investment in a robust multimodal transportation system. I found the groundwork had already been developed here to move TARDA into the future through the Move Toledo Strategic Vision Plan and the Lucas County Commissioner's Task Force Report initiatives. I also recognize there will be significant challenges ahead of us here, and during my very short tenure, I've only been here for 4.5 weeks, I have confirmed that TARDA has to be completely transformed in order to develop into a modern, efficient, and reliable transit system. There's a lot of work to be done. Every successful metropolitan region in the United States has a high-quality public transportation system, and the Metro Toledo region should be no different. Public transportation intersects with everything that is important to elected officials committed to improving their communities, including access, mobility and access to jobs, doctor's appointments, medical services, shopping, and education. Economic development, attracting employers who have specific requirements when they're choosing where to locate. And I use Amazon's HQ2 search, nationwide search, as an example for you. Having public transportation was one of their requirements. Workforce development, attracting and retaining high-quality workers. Affordable housing, improving quality of life for seniors who want to age in place. The next generation who wants to work, live, and play in a community and not necessarily own a car. And people with disabilities, we are literally a door of opportunity and a lifeline for those individuals. I'd like to share with you some recent progress at TARDA. We recently deployed the EasyFare electronic payment platform that allows riders to use credit and debit cards to pay for their fares. Our van pooling partnership with Enterprise is underway. We are seeking expansion opportunities and looking for employers who are interested in this job access program. We're nearing the February 3rd go-live date for Passio Go technology that provides real-time data to riders so they can track when their bus will arrive. We recently purchased 14 5310 vehicles for nonprofit agencies to provide rides for elderly and disabled individuals in the region. I personally have already met with the Federal Transit Administration, have had them on site for 3 days last week, and tomorrow we'll be meeting with the Ohio DOT to seek short-term funding strategies to help us with our financial struggles. This, of course, will be pending a long-term sustainable funding solution through passage of the sales tax levy. I'd like to share with you my vision of TARDA, what I see on the horizon. My top priority is to bring our assets into a state of good repair. We need to purchase replacement vehicles. There will be 2 strategic phases to this. The first will be short-term replacement simply to address safety and maintenance issues. We have more than 71 fixed-route buses and 71 paratransit vehicles that have well exceeded their age and mileage threshold requirements as dictated by the Federal Transit Administration. The second phase of that replacement strategy will be for us to diversify our fleet. We need to think smart, right? With our money, be good stewards of financial money, and right-size our fleet so that we're putting vehicles on the road that meet our capacity demand. Not everything needs to be a large fixed-route bus. We need to prioritize and fund our mission-critical infrastructure. And again, I remind you that I have been at TARDA for 4 weeks, and I'm just going to show you a piece of the list of infrastructure items that need to be replaced or purchased. Fare boxes, facility improvements, including mechanical system upgrades, our bus wash system. We need industrial-grade cleaning equipment to clean our vehicles. Automatic passenger counters so that we can provide you valid ridership data and we can make data-driven decisions about where we increase service delivery and where we cut back. We need security camera systems in our vehicles and on our premises. We need lighting system upgrades, IT infrastructure and software upgrades, and all types of support equipment. We also need to deploy information technology that is common at other transit agencies similar size to us. These are not cutting-edge technologies. They've probably been in place for anywhere between 5 and 10 years. We need a fleet maintenance and parts inventory control system, customer service and relationship management tools, integrated fare technology, mobile data terminals for our paratransit drivers rather than paper manifests that they use right now, a time clock system for our fixed-line drivers, and so much more. We need to enact a branding strategy. Again, 2 phases. TARDA has received hand-me-down vehicles from 3 other agencies, CODA, Akron, and Dayton. And although I'm appreciative of my peers' assistance in helping us get through a challenging situation, that is not good enough for TARDA, it's not good enough for our riders, and it's not good enough for the people who live in this region. So we need to do a short-term common branding strategy that perhaps includes wrapping vehicles so that everyone knows they are actually riding a TARDA bus, and then a long-term rebrand that has a new face of TARDA. Institute a bus system redesign. I won't get into all the details on this, but there has been some groundwork done with a comprehensive operational analysis. Prior to my arriving here, I was the project manager on a similar bus system redesign project in the New Haven, Connecticut region, also including an origin and destination study so that we have data-driven information about where people are and where they want to go. And finally, having some alternatives recommendations come out of that report. We need to expand service both in terms of days, hours, and the area covered. We should be looking at entering into public-private partnerships with employers who want to offer transit passes to their employees as a benefit. We need to look at cross-district service in many hubs that are strategically located outside of the center of the existing hub-and-spoke system. We need to focus on employment centers and area attractions, deploy passenger amenities including bus shelters, benches, and signage, deploy real-time data, very common, not only in that people can use their smartphones, but at our major hubs, we should be able to have screens where people can track the time when the next bus is going to come. We need to look at mobility on demand services in lieu of underperforming fixed route lines. That historical service delivery is not necessarily the way we should be providing our service. Perhaps it looks more like an expansion of the car ride service. So instead of running empty fixed route buses, we're actually, when someone needs us, we can get to them. But it's going to take a lot to design that too, because I'm insistent that do we have a service guarantee? What are we going to tell the people if you call? How long will you get there? All that sort of thing. So everything I'm talking to is super high level, and then there's going to be a lot of planning. I'm going to really need to broaden the technical capacity on our team in order to look toward the future and deploy these types of innovative service delivery strategies. So I'll stop there. The list is much longer, but I won't do it to you. I'll keep it in my head during the nights and during the day and all of that. But I hope you understand my passion just in the short time that I've come here to speak with you. We need to ensure that transit's at the table when employers, new housing developments, and medical service providers move into communities. And I want us to be one of your strategic partners as your community grows and evolves. Finally, we need to shift from the current property tax model to a sales tax model, which is projected to yield between $25 million and $30 million annually versus the less than $13 million that we're receiving right now. I will tell you that this will do three things. It will help us fill our operating deficit that we have at the present time. It will also allow us to leverage federal capital funds that are meant to be used for a designated purpose. And it will also allow us to speak with the state about leveraging state funding. So it changes the entire formula, but it allows Charter to do what it's meant to be doing. Right now we're using capital funds to cover maintenance costs, and that isn't helping us with our plight of having an aging fleet and inadequate infrastructure and other technology tools that we need to be a great system. I look forward to working with all of you to develop the highest quality, frequent, reliable, and efficient public transit system. I thank you for your interest in Tardy's success, and would be happy to entertain any questions.
Any questions for Ms.
I have a question for you, Kim.
Please.
Thanks for coming tonight.
My pleasure.
Really appreciate it. Again, 4.5 weeks, so it may be hard, but if you looked at a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most efficient operation you've ever seen and 1 being the least efficient operation, what have you inherited? That's a tough question, so you don't have to answer that.
May I have a Democratic vote who would answer that question? You know, I believe in my people, so I kind of want to be careful because I want them to have hope for the future. I will tell you, we probably are as lean as we ever could be. There is no leaner that Tardy could get right now. But if you're asking me from a service delivery, like we're on time, we pull out on time. I know that we do that. But
I'm asking you a tough question, so
yeah, no, it's okay. Being innovative and a transit agency of the future, we have a long way to go.
Small, medium, large, what type of system would you say we have here?
We have a mid-size system.
Mid-sized? And I was going to use a scale of 1 to 5. So I think we're all thinking alike here. We know you've got a challenge. And I hope you are willing to stay and accept the challenge.
Thank you for your support.
Have you found a residence here yet?
Yes, I moved here and I began work like the next day, and this is sort of how I was. Yes. I will tell you that part of what enticed me to come to Tardy was the agency I just left it was smaller, but we had the same exact circumstance. It was in desperate need of being completely transformed, and in 5.5 years, I was able to build a team And we did all of these things. We shored up our funding, financial stability, we repaired relationships with our funding sources. We cycled out our entire fleet. It wasn't quite as big, but it was 86 vehicles, and everything's scalable to me. And we started purchasing and deploying technologies that we needed. But, you got to get the right team, you got to get the people who are willing to champion those kinds of projects and move towards the future. But I saw this as a similar situation, and I'm excited for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Jim Caldwell is also here, our appointment. Jim, how many years have you served?
John, thank you. I've been serving for the past 5 years, and it's certainly been a very heartwarming, character-building assignment. The past year was certainly the toughest year that I had the pleasure of serving, but I think we have exciting leadership, and we've got a tremendous commitment of new board members, and I think it's about getting the story out there and articulating what the need and the message is, and continuing to forge meaningful partnerships towards a long-term goal. And I think that we made a great choice in Kim. The selection team was inclusive of stakeholders, board people, union reps. So I think we really did a good job in selecting her within a reasonably short time frame. And now we're off and running, and I'm excited to have Kim here in our community.
Great, thank you. Didn't you have a question about Kripke?
Well, I don't want to take representative from Kripke, and I think we'll do that after the meeting. I'll introduce them and kind of, again, when I look at TARDA, I look at transporting people around, and whether that happens or not is success or not. And, I think, we would get a last-minute sales pitch from their previous general manager, and if the board here didn't agree with them, we voted no, and it kind of stagnated TARDA for a long time. I looked, and TARDA at the time did not communicate with any of our employers, didn't really communicate with this board. So the minute, and I didn't even know he was elected president of the board, but Danny had reached out to me and wanted to set this meeting in motion and things, and then later in the day I found out he was the new president of the board, and so I'm really excited in the direction. But again, I want the communication to happen between our employers and things, and where are our needs, and figure that out. And it just so happened that, again, the Kripke, that the fire chief had said they have such a state-of-the-art facility and things, they were telling us about their needs of transporting workers, and they are kind of on the far side, the west side of our community, and so I thought, boy, this is a perfect chance to really put these two things together and get results for our community. And again, I'm very thankful for you to come out here and get this dialogue started early on in the process, instead of kind of everyone waiting for Neil and I's vote at the last minute and disappointed if it didn't go in a certain direction. This way, there's no surprises. We can figure out where we have common ground and figure out where we need to work on it. And thank you very much for being here.
It's my pleasure. I will tell you, relationships mean everything to me, so I am totally available. My door is open and has been open, and people were shocked for the first day that the door was open, but my door is open not just internally, but externally.
Is that what got you?
No, he's not, he didn't make it.
I didn't know.
Danny he was out of town, I think,
Yes.
went back and forth on
He's in Guatemala for 2 weeks on a mission project, so yes, he sends his best, and as Jim said, we're really looking forward to working with you. I will tell you it's going to be really challenging in the short term, because we don't have any more funding than we had like 5 weeks ago before I arrived, so I'm going to ask for everyone's sort of patience and understanding, because I know that TARDA has cut service down to absolute bare bones. There's nothing left for us to cut, and there's nothing really more for us to give today, other than start getting our house in order and getting the funding in order. But when we get the sales tax levy passed, I have already warned my team, be ready to hit the ground running. That's not the time for us to start getting bids to put out. We need to back it up and be working on it 6 and 8 months in advance. And I also want to tee up the comprehensive operational analysis, which will include public participation, TARDA and consultant getting out in the community, what are your needs, where do you need us, and all that. So I just want to leave that's part of the plan.
Hey, Kim, I went to the Chamber luncheon today for the Toledo Chamber board meeting luncheon, and they mentioned that a study from Bowling Green State University was performed. Have had a chance to see any of that yet? I know you're just getting started.
Yeah, I have to be totally honest, I'm aware of it. I'm really just trying to get up to speed in a short time and see what's going on inside our place, but
Yeah.
yes, I am aware of it.
Okay.
Thanks, Kim. So much to meet you.
Thank you.
Jim, thanks for your service.
Thanks, James.
We appreciate what you've been doing with TARDA. Not an easy task. Oliver?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Resolution 20-020 is a resolution recognizing Friday, February 14th, 2020 as Ohio Loves Transit Day.
I'll move approval of Resolution 2020, which is recognizing Friday, February 14th as Ohio Loves Transit Day.
Second?
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
Next on the agenda is Resolution 20-23, the acceptance of a street lighting petition and the setting of a date for a hearing. This pertains to Quarry Ridge, Plat 1, lots 1 through 61. There was a petition received from Mitchell Development Company, and this is the acceptance of the petition and would establish the date of the public hearing on this for the February 18th, 2020 meeting. Thank you.
I'll offer Resolution 2023 to accept street lighting petition. Second.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
Resolution 20-24.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Will provide for the approval of a collective bargaining agreement with Teamsters Local 20 for the Road and Service Department. As with the last meeting, this agreement was developed with significant communication, collaboration with the bargaining unit and input, and certainly glad to answer any questions regarding this. Again, appreciate the work of the directors, Rob Nash, Janet, and Jim Walter on this, as well as the bargaining unit itself, and the trustees.
I'll offer Resolution 20-24, resolution to approve collective bargaining agreement with the Teamsters Local 20.
Second?
Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
Resolution 20-25 will provide for the approval of funding in 2020 for outside agencies. Information has been distributed to the trustees regarding applications for funding. This is an annual process. Currently, within the budget specifically set aside for this type of funding, there could be a maximum of roughly $28,000. And in front of the trustees on the projector are the names of the entities which applied for this funding: Sylvania Community Action Team, Sylvania Area Family Services, the Arts Commission, and the Lucas County Soil and Water. In discussions with Mr. Crandall, it's my understanding in the past there has been a recommendation which has been put forward, and this will be comprised of Sylvania Area Family Services. In 2019, they were provided with $14,000. One possibility for 2020 would be increasing that to $15,000, which I understand is roughly 50% of the level that the city of Sylvania provides. Lucas County Soil and Water, in 2019, $750 was provided, and the amount requested this year by the entity was $3,500. One possible amount that could be provided would be, again, $750. Sylvania Community Arts Commission, in 2019, they were provided $3,000, and they made that request again at $3,000, and one possible alternative would be continuing that funding at that level. And then finally, the Sylvania Community Action Team, in 2019, they received $6,750, which was the amount that they requested again this year, and that could be another possibility. So the total amount of what can be, under that scenario, provided to the funding to the entities, would be $25,500, which is within the $28,000 available for this function, and compares to $24,500 in 2019. Thank you.
Any comments on the recommendation from the board? I'll move approval then of the recommendation for funding outside agencies, which is Resolution 2025, a total cost of $1,000 over last year.
Second?
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
Resolution 2026 would provide for the approval of temporary staffing through account temps. Township administration is anticipating a longer-term vacancy, roughly on the order of 10 to 12 weeks, in the position of administrative assistant and IT coordinator beginning in February. We are currently working on a number of projects, and having somebody come in through account temps would certainly provide that additional pair of hands in the office so that administration as a whole can continue on with its projects. Myself and Director Onko met with 2 possible candidates last week to fill this position, and this would be for roughly 40 hours per week, possibly scaling down in the last couple of weeks of the assignment. And the bill rate from account temps would be roughly $22.36 for a period of 10 to 12 weeks. Certainly glad to answer any questions on this issue.
I'll move Resolution 2026 to approve the use of temporary staffing through account temps.
Second?
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
And the last item under this category is the review of a request for a new liquor permit at 6725 West Central. This would be for the shopping plaza at the southwest intersection of McCord and Central and the St. James shop. This would be for Suite U, and this is an informational item. There's no action that is necessarily required. It would be our intention to send this back indicating that there would be no meeting or hearing that would be requested. A review by the police department and fire department resulted in no objections being identified for the applicant.
Any questions? I'll move resolution,
No resolution.
I'm sorry, it's just, there is no resolution. Thank you.
And as requested, just a brief update on the end of the year report. I know that Mike Jones and the department heads are working with Sammy to compile the information on the end of the year report, and we're looking forward to putting that together for future review by the trustees and the public. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Howard.
Thank you. We'll move on to zoning. Daryl, why don't you give us your monthly report, and then at 6 o'clock we have a hearing. So if we have time, we want to keep moving down the agenda if we can.
Okay.
Thanks, Tom.
Good evening. The monthly report for December for zoning. We actually finished pretty strong with 34 permits for the month. That's almost a 31% increase, and really strong on the estimated value at $8 million, representing almost 844% increase. That's driven largely by the new child daycare facility that the First Apostolic Church on Sylvania Avenue is constructing. They'll be constructing a $2.4 million child daycare facility. And then also driven by our new house permits, which I'll get to in just a moment. Year to date, we finished with 537 permits. That's down 11.8% from last year. Estimated value about $68.5 million, and that represents almost a 32% increase. Next page, please. Single-family dwellings, we finished with 100 for the year. That's down 18.6% from 2018, but when you look at the 3 years before that, it's right in line with those. Total estimated value was $30.7 million. That's down 3.8% from last year. And approximate estimated value per dwelling, $307,000. That represents a 22% increase over a year ago. Next page. Complaints and violations, we had 15 for the month of December. which as you can see is pretty consistent with the previous 2 years, 6.2% down. And year-to-date, 229 complaints and violations, and that is a 25% increase from 2018. Next page. Zoning meetings, the BZA had an exception and a variance. Those are both approved. The zoning commission heard the zone change request for 3137 Knoll Avenue and recommended approval for that. Next page. I won't read all of these, but just to highlight a few of them. I already mentioned the First Apostolic Church. The meeting dates for 4828 Wayford Road, the proposed conditional use. Lucas County Plan Commission is tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. And then that'll be before the Township Board of Zoning Appeals on Monday, February 3rd at 5 p.m. Our new single-family dwelling permits, we issued 14 for the month of December, which is good for any month and really good for December. I had to go back and look to see when we had a December that had so many, and I had to go back all the way to 2004 when we had 19 permits. And as a side note, we've already got 9 of them in for this year, and we're only 21 days into it, so it's looking pretty good. It's driven largely by Quarry Ridge and Brint Crossing. The other things I'll just let you read over unless there's any questions on them. And then one other item I want to add is on our Board of Zoning Appeals, Al Hayes was recently reappointed to the board. Due to health reasons, he is stepping down from the board. And our alternate, Jason Levine, has expressed interest in being made a full member. So I will be bringing that before the trustees at the next meeting. And then we'll also have to get another alternate member. And Zach Mercer, who was just recently appointed alternate, will kind of take Jason Levine's place as first alternate. All that is if Jason Levine is appointed as a full member of the BZA. That's all I have on the monthly report.
Okay, any questions of Daryl? Thanks, Daryl.
Thank you.
We'll come back at 6 on the hearing. Next item on the agenda is non-agenda items, and Mark Jans is here, 8044 Bancroft.
Evening, gentlemen. This is regarding the vehicles that were at my mom and dad's property at 8044 West Bancroft. I know the neighbor came in and made another complaint about it. And then Daryl came out and Oliver and Dean were along with him last week also. You know, guys, it was, my family's lived on that property for at least 60 years. And I know that these cars have been there for a very long time, all right? It was lawful for those cars to be there before the zoning ordinance was changed, all right? I've got a note from the Ohio Supreme Court on when zoning codes are changed. It says, when zoning codes are updated over time, as happens frequently, current uses may not conform to the new zoning code, but are grandfathered in and classified as legal non-conforming. Local governments know that over time, these non-conforming uses will cease and the property can be redeveloped into a conforming use. It is critical for property owners to be aware of what will constitute an abandonment or discontinuance of the current property use, as at that time the grandfathered status is lost and future uses of the property must conform to the current zoning code. As far as I'm concerned, guys, I mean, I don't know, nobody showed me any legal paperwork or anything. Everything on that property should be grandfathered in. That stuff's been on that property for a very long time. And because I have a pain in the butt neighbor, we have to literally change everything. I've literally done everything that he's asked of us. But I still have one vehicle sitting there on a trailer, and I've got a commercial truck sitting there. The commercial truck was there because I used that truck to remove the cars. But, after him coming up and complaining to you guys again, I'm pretty well half tempted just to leave that car on that property. Because as far as I know, it should be grandfathered in.
We talked about this at our last meeting. Daryl, has anything happened since the last meeting? I think we asked you to go out and take another look at the property.
We did, we met on I think it was last
I don't know if
Wednesday.
the board's aware of that. I'm not, but go ahead, Daryl.
Yes, Mr. Turner and Mr. Boyers and myself went out there on last Wednesday, whatever the date was, and met with Mr. Jans. We agreed on giving him till January 31st to get rid of the junk car. The trailer's fine, you're allowed to have a trailer on your property. The issue was the junk vehicle that is on the trailer, and then also the large commercial truck, which any commercial vehicle over 12,000 pounds is not permitted on a residential property unless it's making a delivery or doing work at the time. There is a small skid loader, bobcat, whatever it's called, that can stay on the property. That's under 12,000 pounds. But as far as the use being grandfathered in, that's true. A use is grandfathered in. I've never heard of debris or junk vehicles being considered a use. That's...
Well, in your mind, it sounds like you came away thinking we had this resolved, and maybe I'm misinterpreting here.
By January 31st, yes, with the agreement that we would follow up.
Is that okay with you, sir, or are you here saying you don't agree, or?
I don't agree, because those vehicles have been there, it's kind of like, ever since I was a kid, we grew up with horses and cows and sheep and goats on that property. My dad told me, he said, Mark, as soon as Brandy, that was our last horse, leaves this property, we can no longer have horses or any large animals on this property. And it was because they were grandfathered in.
I guess what you're telling us is you don't intend to move the vehicle. Is that what I'm hearing?
I mean, this gentleman's just been nothing but a pain in the butt. I'm sorry, guys, and I'm putting it politely. This stuff has been there forever. Like I said, our family's lived there for 60 years. If he didn't like the stuff that was on the property, he shouldn't have bought the property.
Well, I guess you're letting us know you don't intend to. I think Daryl thought he had it worked out. You're saying, no, it's not. So
but when I
we'll take that under advisement.
When I went back to the shop, I did myself a little research, and I found out back from the Ohio Supreme Court what they consider about things being grandfathered in. And the commercial vehicle will be removed, even though Savory's right there.
Oh, well, okay, if you're saying, I was thinking you were telling us you weren't going to do it. If you're going to do it.
I'm going to remove the commercial vehicle.
We appreciate that.
But as far as that car's been on that property for 50, 55 years.
Well, I'll leave that up to Daryl, and I guess.
Is the commercial vehicle grandfathered in? I mean, if he was using it as a tree place, or is that specifically excluded because of the weight and size of it?
It would be excluded unless that use was going on pre-1956 when zoning went in, which, mentioning Savory, that's the case with that. They've been in business at that location since, I believe it was 1951. Zoning went into effect December 1st, 1956, so they are indeed grandfathered in. After Mr. Jans brought it to our attention, Dean and I researched that, and so they're
well, I think as
grandfathered
far
in
as our board, unless you two feel differently, we asked you to look into it, you did, you thought it was resolved, I guess it's not resolved, but we'll take that under advisement.
It'd just be nice if somebody could say to this neighbor, hey, you know, this guy's done everything that you've asked him to do, except for this one final vehicle. He's grandfathered in.
It's hard for us,
John, do you have any
Police
opinion on this at all? This is our legal counsel, Mark.
Pardon me?
This is our legal counsel, our attorney.
If a car's on a trailer, does it count as a car or a trailer?
The junk vehicle statute is not zoning, so a junk vehicle is not grandfathered in. It's not part of the zoning statutes. What he's reading is that's generally correct. That's a correct statement of Ohio law. But, as I said, the junk vehicle statutes are not zoning, so there's nothing grandfathered in. And as Daryl said, debris and nuisances, that's not a use. So that would not be grandfathered in. A prior non-conforming use is very strict. It literally has to be the exact same thing that's been going on since prior to the zoning statutes. If you have a building that's 100 square feet, it's got to be 100 square feet. You can't change it. You can't make significant changes to it. So it's very rare that a prior non-conforming use would apply. It certainly doesn't apply to junk vehicles. It certainly doesn't apply to debris or negligence or nuisances or things of that type. So if that vehicle is a junk vehicle, I don't know that it is. I've not seen it. But if it is a junk vehicle, it's not grandfathered in because it's not zoning. That's a separate statute, not part of the zoning code.
Thank you. All right, let's move on. I think we've figured this out.
So then how is it that the zoning has to come out about it?
Sir, I'd like to move on.
So on January 31st, will he have to have the car with the trailer removed and the commercial vehicle for him to be in compliance, I guess is Mr. Janus's question.
Right, that's what was agreed upon. The trailer can stay. If he had a working car on the trailer, it would not be an issue. You're permitted up to 2 trailers on a residential property. But the fact that it's a junk car on the trailer is what the issue is, as well as a large commercial truck.
What do you plan on doing with that car?
At some point, I'm either gonna restore it, or I'm gonna piece it out.
When is that point, or what, I mean, it sounds to me like we're coming down to the end here, where, you know, what are your intentions, what can we expect from you, and to get this thing resolved once and for all? Again, I feel bad for you, having lived there so long and things, but, you know, if this is what they're telling us, we've got to have a resolution here within 10 days, and I'm just trying to figure the best solution out for all of us. Is there a place you could take that, you know, and store that until you're ready to restore it, or?
I'll make up my mind on it.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
It's unfortunate how, like I said, when the family's been there for 60 years, that a neighbor can change everything. It's just not right.
Thank you, sir.
Guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sue Tuitt, please, Sue. Sue Shore, in regard to Alan Savini and Greenacre. Her address is 6051 Greenacre. Hi, Sue.
Hi, Sue.
I learned recently that building at Blossman and Holland Savina is turning into a party hall, a rental hall. And I've observed that the cars that are parking there are people walking on the trail. So I had a light bulb moment thinking that maybe that property we've been discussing could turn into a parking lot for, like it is on McCord, for the parks. Because the trail is extending and connecting, and now that people are parking on that person's property just to walk the trail, they're going to start complaining because they're going to start running that home.
The parking lot on McCord was a joint project, Metro Parks and the county.
I thought you would know more about that than...
Well, no, I don't know. That's a That's kind of a good thought, but
And another thing that I didn't bring up is the Edison is never going to rescind that 50-foot Edison easement that runs behind our properties. So it's unusable for buildings, but you can use it for parking.
that's not a usable line, is it? I think the towers.
It's 80 foot wide and 50 foot of it.
But aren't the lines gone, but the towers are still?
Everything's gone, but they won't rescind it. We've tried,
No, they'll keep that right away, or easement.
But the first lot next to the trail is only 80 foot wide. And if you can't build anything on 50 foot of it, use it for parking.
That's a good thought. I think Oliver and I could follow up and see if there's any interest.
Has there been any contact with the attorney and the trustee on the property that we can work something out about that PUD thing?
We would have to get his permission, but then I think.
Well, yeah,
We could
but
talk to Metro Parks.
well, yeah, that too, but I'm talking about going back to that PUD and getting rid of all that change. I thought that I would hear something. The only thing I heard was a quote out of the book from DARYL, which I already knew. But I thought there was going to be some discussion with not the owner, but the trustee of the property.
I know we asked you to get, wait, Darryl, and you jump up, have you talked to that owner again since our last meeting when Sue was here?
No, I've not talked to him.
We decide it's a PUD.
It's a C4 PUD, so...
C4 offices.
Right, so when somebody would come along to develop it, they would have to submit a new plan or go for a zone change. If they just want to do a straight C4, for example, they would have to do the zone change from C4 PUD to C4.
But would you, let's say Sue's idea would work and that could be a parking area, could they do that on C4 or would they have to rezone it?
If it was the Metro Parks, couldn't it?
I don't know, I'm asking Darryl.
If it was the Metro Parks, they would probably rezone it to S1. If I'm not mistaken, that's what the one on McCord is. Maybe an A4, I don't know, I'd have to look at that.
Yeah, if it was back to A4, if you eliminated that zoning change since the project was eliminated, and it went back to A4.
Well, you got us thinking, Sue.
For the Metro Parks.
I don't know if Metro Parks in the county would do it.
They're gonna need more parking because those people that are renting that new hall out now are not gonna stand for that too much longer. And there's not that much parking on McCord since they've extended it and attached all these trails together. Where are people gonna park?
I know you were here the last meeting, but let's see if we can follow up on that. I think Oliver and I could follow up and see if there's any interest. This is really kind of out of Darryl's bailiwick.
That's a good
Was there
solution for that property.
anything
so
done
we'll
with the
definitely look into
property
it.
owner or trustee as to getting him to change the zoning back?
Well, I think the board can handle that if we want to move forward with this and the Metro Parks and everyone's on board with it. I think no one ever thought of it, so between Mr. Crandall and Mr. Turner, we'll at least look into it, and that's a great idea.
We'll get back to you, Sue, you don't,
Okay.
either Mr. Turner or I will get back to you so you're not wondering.
Oh, I'll be back. I like you guys.
Could you jot your phone number down on this and then we'll get, I don't know, nowadays it's hard to track people down.
In your pen, John.
Oh, there you go, thank you. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks, sir.
We'll get back to you soon.
All right.
Don't let me forget this. Okay. All right, next item is 6 o'clock public hearing. And I think Steve Mitchell's here. Steve, oh, there he is. Steve is 3150 Republic Boulevard North, and he's here at Brint Crossings. And this is a PUD amendment for Brint Crossings. And Daryl, you want to start?
Sure.
Well, maybe I should say, we're opening up the public hearing at 6:01.
Imran, if you can go to the trustees' staff report under, yes, right there. And then scroll down, probably the last or second last page. Just keep going. Yeah, that one right there, that'll work. Thank you. As you can see from that drawing, Comstock Ditch runs along the eastern boundary of, this is north up here, runs along the eastern boundary of Brint Crossing, and for the most part, on all the parcels back in here, it serves as the rear property line as well. But when you get over here, it starts to veer just slightly to the west, and so what it does is these 7 lots right here are cut off from the rear of their properties by the ditch. At the time this PUD was approved, there was a plan to realign Comstock Ditch. That did not happen, so the applicant today is coming in to get an amendment to the PUD to change the line to go coexistent with the ditch, and then do a lot split so that the rear part of these parcels will then be joined with the lots over here in Quarry Ridge. At this time, none of these lots are developed. They're all undeveloped lots. So it's 7 lots there, lots 57 through 61 of Plat 4, and lots 78 and 79 of Plat 5 of Brint Crossing. And the applicant, Mr. Mitchell, is here as well. Do you have any questions?
Do you have anything you'd like to state, Steve?
Yes, thank you. Real briefly, when we started Brint Crossing, actually it was 18 years ago when we got the first PUD approved. At the time, the rules were a little more flexible on moving ditches. And as we progressed in the project, as you know, with what goes on with the permitting process, Corps of Engineers, to move that is almost next to impossible. As Daryl mentioned, what we've ended up with, as the further north we went, the ditch moves more to the west than we thought. So there's actually almost 30, 35 feet at that northern end. If someone buys that lot, they can't even get to the 30 feet on the other side, which is problematic. It doesn't make sense to build individual bridges over it. What's changed since all this started is we are now also the developer of the property immediately to the east of that, called Quarry Ridge. So it seemed to make sense to us to take that strip out of these 7 Brint Crossing lots, and we will add them to the future platted lots in Quarry Ridge. So now the center line of the ditch in this area will serve as the property line.
Any questions for the developer? All right, any comments from the public in this regard? If not, I'll declare the hearing over at 6:05.
I'll make resolution 20-17, resolution to approve amendment to previously approved PUD for Brint Crossing.
Second? Oh, go ahead.
You're fine. Hey, Mr. Genoway?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Crandall?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Now we'll move back to our agenda. Open discussion and reports. I think you're going to handle this, Mr. Turner. There's a number of items we've been talking about, and I think the board has seen some correspondence. The first is our goals for 2020. And I'll turn that over to Mr. Turner and refresh your memory on that.
Thank you,
But we
Mr.
wanted to take formal action rather than just communications.
This discussion is a follow-up to an email which was sent by myself and Chairman Crandall had discussed for the calendar year 2020, the goals that the trustees would like administration to focus on to really move forward. And there were a number that Trustee Crandall had developed as an individual trustee, ranging from continuation on the annexation subject matter, the continued implementation of the land use plan, and continuing to improve coordination and communication internally and externally, as I understand it, focusing on revenue options with the city of Sylvania or other jurisdictions at identified and proper locations, consideration of a fire levy which would be informed by a needs assessment which will be completed by administration and reviewed by the trustees, and then finally improving low-cost township economic development efforts, which, as the trustees will note, this issue is also listed as an agenda item in terms of a retention program. Certainly, administration looks forward to receiving feedback on goals and working to implement those across the board.
We've normally not done that. I don't know what the board thinks on that. I'd like to give those to Oliver so that if there's priorities to be set, we can do that, but I'm not, I guess this is for your consideration if you want to set goals for next year.
Yeah, I think it's a good checks and balances too. It's kind of a good barometer to see how we did for the year. I appreciate all your thought
Oh, no, that's fine.
efforts.
But if you're okay with it, John, I don't think we need a resolution.
No.
I'm just setting a direction for the administration. Next item?
Next item is on discussion regarding an economic development retention program. Again, this is something which was born out of a conversation with myself and Trustee Crandall. Just a draft of a possible framework was circulated for this type of initiative, and this would be really geared toward identifying key stakeholders, key businesses, crucial entities within the community that the trustees would like myself and one other trustee to sit down with periodically. These types of meetings could happen once a month with different type of organizations, entities, so that there would be roughly 10 or 12 such retention calls every year. And really the purpose of those discussions could range from identifying growth opportunities to making sure that township services that we're continuing to receive feedback on that and working toward continuation of improvement, and really just opening up dialogue on a structured basis with stakeholders.
This is something CIC's talked about. They seem to never get to it. I'd like to just initiate it for the township. And it would be our major employers. I gave you a list, but we can change that as we go along. But we didn't develop a form yet for it. I wanted to see what you two thought about it. And I don't think we'd do over one a month. And Oliver would set it up. And I can probably make most of those, but if I can't, I'd like one of you two to sit in, and we'll keep a record of what they like about township and things we could improve on, or hopefully plans that they have for growth. I think that would be a key item. It's a low-cost economic development thing that we've talked about. And again, I don't think we need a resol. I just want to be sure you two are okay with that. If so, the administration will, I'll let Oliver initiate this.
I think one of the things about being on the township board and an elected official, and even in the administration, is we're all very accessible. I mean, we're at the Chamber of Commerce meetings, we're at Rotaries, we're at CICs, and I think this is probably getting done, but to formalize the process, it never hurts to make sure that you're keeping up with what you think you're doing. So, but I think when our employers, or when somebody, just hearing Kripke was spending money on Ubers back and forth, I mean, it gets to us pretty quickly, and I think we're great in response to our businesses and even residents here. So, but if we formalize this process, I think it's a great idea.
You're okay with it? All right. Next item?
Next item is follow-up discussion on Waterside Sylvania, and I'll defer to the chair.
Waterside Sylvania, the people came. We actually, our motion kept all the conditions that the Plan Commission had, which were 3 stub streets. The fire chief had said to the developer, he thought it would be all right to do pavers and stabilized base to the south. But now we've asked the whole staff to look at this, zoning, road department, police department, and I think the staff, you should have had a memo that they're having some reservations about this. And what I'd like to do is meet with our county planner and see what really bothers me is I think the people that were there left thinking we did one thing, but actually we're doing something else. And I don't think I'll be here when the road gets built, but I just think it would be good to see if we can resolve this. But I didn't want to go ahead and meet with the Plan Commission without your knowledge and what you think. And we might have to get back to the citizens, depending on how we might be able to resolve this.
No, I felt like we left that dangling, and I wasn't sure, again, where it goes. I certainly, if you're willing to spearhead that and see where we end up, again, we just kind of didn't handle that. The chief had left and things, and we just...
Oh, no, it's one of those things. I don't fault the chief.
No.
Just things happen sometimes. But what I'm nervous about is I think the citizens left thinking one thing.
And the developer did too, I would imagine.
I think so. I don't know that.
Yeah.
So if that's okay, I'll move ahead on that.
Well, he in fact told us that evening that it was approved already by the chief, so obviously it wasn't.
Well, I think the more thought, time of the year, in the dry time of the year, that'll work fine, but if it's a little wet, and then the road department, someday, would they have to take care of that? We got pretty deep into that, and I'd just like to see if, I don't know what the solution is, but I'd like to be sure that we get back with the citizens and let them know the decision. But first, I'd like to meet with the Plan Commission on that.
When do you think we'll follow back up with the developer and the neighbors in 60 days?
I hope to have it by the next meeting.
Okay, great, fantastic.
Yeah, I don't want to leave it linger too long.
Yeah.
And if you remember, the homeowners association hasn't been formed yet. That's still the developer, so there isn't like the president we can go to with the citizens, but we'll try to work that out, and we'll be back to you no later than the next meeting.
Sounds good.
Next item.
Next item is an update that the township received a resignation from Greg Feller from the Sage Yard Board. It's my understanding he is now the Sylvania Schools organizational representative on Sage Yard, and this would create one vacancy on the Sage Yard Board. In terms of follow-up, Roy, it's my understanding this discussion would be if administration would be directed to post the vacancy and solicit applications, or if another course of action is desired by the trustees.
Normally, we put an article in the paper and then follow up, and we've already had one applicant, but I felt like we should talk it over as a board and see if we follow our normal procedure, which would be to get a notice in the paper and have a deadline and see who applies. I have a feeling we'll have multiple applications on this.
I think we just publicize it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Have Mike put an article in. We already had one applicant, I felt like we should let people know this position is coming up.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next item on the agenda is the road department. Well, sorry you had to sit through all this. We better rethink that agenda, I guess.
Yeah, I previously submitted December's monthly report. I'll just cover some key highlights and make it quick. Obviously, we're still in our leaf pickup. This year, we were able to do 5 passes, 23,554 cubic yards. That's a record haul since I've been here in 20 years. That's the most we've ever collected. If you want to take that into context, that's roughly 1,570 truckloads throughout the township. That includes our crews and two separate contractors. We count their loads as well. We did some pothole repairs, and on the other side, what was able us to get those leaves picked up was we didn't have much snow or ice. One event for the month of December, which is pretty rare, but I think we're going to pay for it in February. So we conducted some quarterly safety meetings, and as discussed in the department head meetings with the department heads and the administration, the road and service department are implementing the iWork fleet software that we purchased, and we discussed the implementation of the service request side of that. So tomorrow I will send out an email to the designated individuals that the department heads gave me, and with an explanation of how that's going to work. So we're kind of excited about getting that out there. It's called Talk to My City, so when they see that, they'll be able to go to that link and be able to put in the service requests and be able to track their own requests. So every employee in the township will be able to put their own requests in, track it, and get their follow-up if it was repaired, if it wasn't repaired, and what the repairs were. So, and then the designated department head employees will be able to look into it a little bit further and see some other data that goes along with those things. So if you want to look at the service department, part of that report, if you scroll down a couple pages there, one more. Oh, real quick, let's just stop right here. I don't know if you can flip it, but we track our leaf pickup routes per grid, so there's the 23 grids. I know it's kind of hard to see, but those are in and out dates and per grid. So we're looking towards publish that next year, so residents can see on the website when we're in their grid, when we come out of their grid. It's not a road by road, minute by minute, but it does give them a timeline, and it does kind of let them gauge it for themselves. It's very hard to explain to a resident. We can't tell them when we're going to be down the road. We give them like a 4 or 5 day window. That's about it.
Do you have a map that goes with this?
We're trying to implement a map.
So they can see what grid they're in?
Yeah. There's some GIS mapping systems that we're trying to work out to do that, but that requires some more technical data and infrastructure that we don't have right now, to include someone to monitor and be able to update it. So, but go ahead and scroll down if you want. Just take a look at the service report. I kind of got flipped to. This is just one report. We can curtail it to however we want. Right now, I just have it broke out by departments and by expense and piece of equipment that we worked on. Those costs, if you keep scrolling, you'll see total cost for the month per department. Those are just for parts. That doesn't include labor costs or miscellaneous items that we don't really track. So they're just major repairs and items we track. So for the month of December, the whole department had, between the whole township, we had about 13,400 in parts that we used. And that includes oils and other miscellaneous items that we do track. So that's part of the new system that we're implementing. And hopefully
as we go forward, that helps us with our fleet, being able to generate when we want to take something in or out of service as well, and give the department heads a better judgment of where their fleet is as far as the maintenance and the coordination on replacement of those vehicles. Any questions? You can go back to the report.
Any questions?
I do, Rob. Corey Road, I know we talked about that. That's just a repaving, right? I had a couple calls about it.
The north end or
The north end.
The north
The south end, I'm
The
sorry.
south end between Central and Sylvania Avenue will be a resurface. It'll just be like a mill and fill project. Fairly larger than our typical road because it's wider and it does have some curve and it's a 35-mile-an-hour zone. So that project will be a little bit more in detail than just, there'll be some select drainage work involved in it as well. There'll be an upgrade to the crossover at the park area in the Springbrook.
Nice, okay.
Thank you. We had no local match on that too, didn't we, or no?
This is an OPWC project. That project went from, that was the project, the 2021 project that we received the 100% grant.
Yeah.
So it was an additional $550,000 off of our local costs that we're going to receive. That was
That's
picked up
really great for us.
by the state. So I discussed that in the last meeting. So
When's Quarry Road North is gonna happen?
What's that?
When's Quarry Road to the north happening?
To the north, it's not on the agenda right now. We're looking at putting it in the 5-year budget next year.
Okay.
I know the reason why is because that was resurfaced within the last 20 years. There was some berm work that was done that I don't know, if there was some erosion issues on the one side, so it was cut and filled. So there's some issues as far as the ride quality on that road, but the structure itself is sound, and we're trying to get by for another few years before we sink into it, because that's going to be another OPWC project that we'll seek the grant money for, because it'll be a large-scale project, and there'll be some drainage improvements involved in that as well.
Any questions for Mr. Nash? Other questions?
Good job on the leaves.
Thank you.
We got lucky with the weather.
Fiscal Department, I don't think we have a report tonight, do we?
Yeah, no, we do have the December
Oh, I'm sorry.
month-end analysis. It'll just be brief. You can see we have most of our revenue, well, almost all of our revenues, and there may be a few little bits of money dribbling in. But the focus is always on the expenses, as you can see. We watch those closely, and actually we've come in pretty close to last year on these things. What we've budgeted, we're under our budget by, when you get to like 6 or 7% when you're talking about this kind of money, that's a major dollars. And then, so I think that we've done well, the departments have done well there. And I think we have to actually acknowledge the department heads that are manning their budgets, that are running their budgets, and the people that work with them in their budgets. It's not just them, it's developing that sensitivity to public money that they're working with. And I think we've got that good relationship, not just with the department heads and administration, but with our employees who are trying to watch how we spend money. And so I think our numbers look good for a year end here. So that's all I have.
Any questions from the project? Good, thank you. I'll move that we go into executive session at 6:25 in regard to pending or imminent court action regarding the zoning department. The prosecutor's office will be joining us, and DARYL, and I'm sure Mr. Turner.
Second.
Mr. Genowine? Yes. Mr. Boney?
Yes.
Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
Here's a second.
John's on the phone, he'll be right back.
Yeah.
Hey, John, on a three-member board, you really need a second?
Huh?
On a three-member board, you really need a second?
Yeah, we need a, we could vote without John, but we come on, John.
Yes, sorry.
Okay, I move that we come out of executive session at 6:44.
Second?
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Crandall?
Yes, and I'll move that we adjourn at 6:45.
Second?
Calling the roll, Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
Mr. Mooney?
Yes.
Mr. Crandall?
Yes, thank you.
All right.
With no action taken, correct?
No action.
No action.